Hey everyone, Sam here, otherwise known as FPL Pricey, and in today's video, I will be running through my team selection ahead of Game Week 13. Welcome back everyone to another video. Now, first things first, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to anyone that has subscribed in the past 48 to 72 hours. I've had a little bit of a surge, and I'm now right on the cusp of hitting my 2026 target of 5,000 subscribers. If you did enjoy today's video and you're not subscribed yet, it would mean the world to me if you could get me ever closer, and maybe even you will be the one that pushes me over the edge. Either way, thank you so much, and I do appreciate your support. If you could hit like as well, that will help get me the reach to hopefully get more subscribers too. Anyway, back to the video. First and foremost, I just wanted to show my team without any transfers going into Game Week 13. I do have 2 free transfers to use. I'm sat just outside 300k, so I'm very happy with the position I'm in this week. But crucially, I don't have the free hit chip left to play, whereas a lot of the crowd, a lot of you watching might be on free hit this week. It is a popular week for it, and I am missing a lot of the popular teams and players within most of the free hit drafts that I'm seeing. So Liverpool, I've got no coverage. Man City, I've only got Haaland. Aston Villa, Brentford, both popular. I've got very limited coverage. In fact, no coverage in my bus team, at least, for either of those teams. However, I still don't mind the look of my side going into this game week. Everton away for Nick Pope in goal. I'm not too fussed about that one. He's not been keeping clean sheets recently, but Newcastle are still a decent defence. It will eventually come, and I'm not going to try and overthink that one. Into my back line, I'm pretty happy with all 3 of them. Lacroix at home to Man United should pick up some defcon. Also a reasonable chance of a clean sheet. Not the same as a Brentford or an Aston Villa or a Man City this week, but week to week, I'm perfectly happy with him. He's got a bit of attacking threat. Timber, very similar, scored in the Champions League typically. But again, that just shows what sort of attacking threat he's got, and I would be very surprised if he missed out against Chelsea. And then Senesi, again, defcon, very happy with that. Sunderland have been doing very well this season, but there are at least suggestions that they're overperforming on their data. So it's not like I'm massively keen on double Bournemouth this week, but I also don't hate it. So I think they could get something against Sunderland, and either way, Senesi should hit defcon in that game. So not a bad floor for him. Moving into my midfield, Saka away at Chelsea. Again, he wouldn't be making it in if I was free hitting, but it's not a bad player to be owning. Picked up an assist and got taken off early in midweek against Bayern. By the way, what a performance yet again. Arsenal are just on fire at the moment. So again, I probably wouldn't include them on a free hit draft, but it is scary to go without Arsenal any week at the moment, considering the form they're in. So I'm perfectly happy to own both of them. I'll skip Enzo and João Pedro, my Chelsea boys, for now. Move on to Bruno Fernandes. Again, not ideal away at Palace. And of course, I've got 2 players going up against each other there, Lacroix and Fernandes. But he can score, he can get defcon, he's got penalties, he's got routes to points. So I'm not going to overthink that one. Again, wouldn't be in on free hit, but a player that can absolutely do well this week yet again. Sarr, Man United at home. Again, not worried about that, although he has been very frustrating recently. I don't think he's picked up a single attack and return since I wildcarded in Game Week 8, although I have owned him since Game Week 3. But the returns do seem like they're pretty close. The data's still good. He's returning in every other competition. And a bit like Enzo Fernandez up until last week, he was kind of just teasing me a little bit. And I just really hope that this is the week that it pays dividends holding on to him. Semenyo has been spotted in training, so that flag should get removed very soon. And again, 90 minutes, should be on penalties if Kluivert isn't on the pitch and he's struggling with an injury. So hopefully Semenyo will be a good option against Sunderland. No question about Haaland. He will be my captain in Game Week 13, but of course we'll talk through the captaincy matrix later on. The 2 issues in my side are the 2 Chelsea boys at home to Arsenal. Enzo Fernandez, I'm more reluctant to sell, but João Pedro is already out. So first and foremost, let's take a look at who my João Pedro replacement is. Okay, so if you watch my transfer plans video from earlier on in the game week, or earlier on in the week, I suppose, I had 3 main options to choose between for João Pedro. Those were Thiago, Welbeck, and Mateta. Now, Mateta came off very early, 59 minutes in game week 12, and he does cost a lot more money, but he also had better data. So I was tempted to go with him, but because he costed quite a lot of money, I would have had to massively downgrade Enzo, or downgrade him a reasonable amount. And then also it would lock me out of other future upgrades I want to make. And I'll go through some of those upgrades via FPL team in just a moment's time in another section. So that kind of ruled him out for me, although I am jealous of owners. So I was kind of picking between Thiago and Welbeck. I've gone with Thiago. The reason being, I'm just a little bit more confident on his minutes going into this really busy period. Welbeck's been getting good minutes as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if he started all of the matches, but I do think his minutes will get reduced a little bit considering his age profile and the fact that historically he's not been consistently fit throughout any season. He does usually get about 20 to 28, I think is the maximum sort of starts we'd be expecting from Welbeck. So he will probably miss a few games at some point. Thiago, however, he was out all of last season, it is worth noting, but since that one injury, he's been consistently fit, and I do back him to get good minutes during this period. Crucially, Arsenal in game week 14 is a problem, but with my future transfer plans, I can look at benching him if I want to in game week 14 without too many issues. And again, let's face it, a penalty-taking striker is never a bad option to be getting off of your bench or starting, even in the very worst fixture. If anyone's going to score against Arsenal, it would be a penalty-taking striker with good underlying data. So I'm not going to overthink this one. Thiago is in. I beat the price rise earlier on in the week, so I got him at 6.4 million. And it does help me afford future transfers as well. So João Pedro is gone. Thiago is in. I don't think I need to explain too much about why João Pedro is gone. The data's not been brilliant. He will, if he's even on penalties, which again is speculative, he will definitely lose them with Palmer coming back into the fold very soon. And his minutes are probably going to get managed over this next period as well, because Chelsea have a lot of big games coming. He missed out, I think, in the Champions League in midweek, probably to start against Arsenal, but then against Leeds 3 or 4 days later, I'm not necessarily confident that he starts that one. So I just didn't want to have to worry about that. I've gone with Thiago, cheaper, better data, more consistent minutes, job done. So the more difficult decision that I'm faced with going into game week 13 is whether or not I use my second free transfer to get rid of Enzo Fernandez. Now, if Semenyo was more of a doubt, then he might be a player I could look at moving on, but it does look like he's going to be fit and available for game week 13. I will probably wait until pretty late on in the week to make this transfer, just in case we get any news from press conferences or something else comes out. However, if nothing happens and all of my players are fit, I think I would reluctantly get on board with selling Enzo Fernandez. Now, obviously, this would be the opportune moment to sell him because he's got Arsenal at home this game week. However, I will admit that after this fixture is out of the way, he could be a player that you might just want to hold on to. So if you're free hitting this week and you're faced with Enzo Fernandez coming back in for game week 14, I think you're in a good spot. I don't think you need to get rid of him. And one option I do have is to just roll the second transfer and make a decision another week and have that extra transfer spare, and Enzo Fernandez stays. In fact, out of all midfielders in the game this year, he's got the highest non-penalty XGI per 90. So even the fact that he's on penalties isn't the only reason that he's been a good asset. He's also got good underlying data removing the penalties. So I do wonder if getting rid of him is a mistake just because of the one fixture ahead of him. But I think there's more to it than that. So Arsenal in game week 13 is a problem, obviously. He could return in that game week, of course. But after that, the midweek, he's got Leeds away from home, followed by Bournemouth away in the following weekend. So 3 games in 1 week. And he's had some fitness concerns in both of the recent international breaks. So I don't know whether he's fully fit, although he has played good minutes in the last 2 matches since the international break. I do just wonder if his minutes are going to get managed a little bit during this congested period. And if they are, it's most likely to come in that good fixture against Leeds. And if he gets reduced minutes or maybe a benching in that one, it's kind of ruined him as a player for me if I hold on to him for Arsenal at home, Leeds away where he could get benched or reduce minutes, and then Bournemouth away, which again is not ideal. Whereas for cheaper, I've got other options who are, okay, not as good on the underlying attacking data, but they've got good fixtures, and I've probably got a bit more confidence on the minutes. So again, I'll reiterate, not a transfer I need to make, and I am a little bit cautious about getting rid of him, but with Cole Palmer coming back in, and him probably getting penalties back off of Enzo, and with Enzo probably playing more of a withdrawn role, less of a 10, more of an 8, less attacking threat probably comes from that with Palmer back in the fold. So again, it might be the time to get rid of him for me. If I am getting rid of him, the 4 options I've spoken about are Foden and Rodgers, who are slightly more expensive, very good on a free hit if you're looking at free hitting this week. But I do have hesitations about them as long-term picks. Rodgers more for the underlying data, although I'm open to it getting better in the next few weeks with good fixtures to come. And his minutes are very good, but he's a little bit more expensive. And Foden is even more expensive. The underlying data isn't box office great either, 0.35. And although the fixtures are very good, I also do wonder if maybe there is a benching or with reduced minutes in the Fulham game, perhaps. And I'm just not as confident. And also, most of the attacking threat for City is flowing through Haaland. It's not like Foden is picking up really good underlying numbers either. So is it worth spending 8 million on? And again, if I spend 8 million there, then it stops me from other moves in other positions later on down the line. So again, I'll go into that in a moment's time, but the 2 options I'm probably choosing between right now are Yankuba Minter or Anderson. Now, both right now at time of recording allow me the future moves that I want to make because they're both cheap enough to do so. But all it takes is a couple of small price rises and Minter would then lock me out of other future moves. So I'm a little bit cautious on that one. And I do also wonder whether or not this is the week to be hopping on to Minter. Forest away, followed by Villa at home. Both defences on the rise right now. And the data's all right. It's not bad, 0.36, but he's not good on DEFCON. And it's West Ham at home, the fixture that I really, really want him for. And then after that, Liverpool away, I'm perfectly happy with. It looks really bad on the ticker, but I'm not worried about that whatsoever right now. After that, some good fixtures as well. So I do really like Minter, and I will be buying him almost certainly, either in game week 13 or 15. In game week 15, I would be selling Ismaila Sarr because he's about to go off to AFCON, Fulham away from home for him that week. And I can buy Minter for the great fixture against West Ham at home. However, because it's quite tight on pricing, I wonder if I can just simplify things and remove pricing from the equation by going with Elliot Anderson. Now, he's not as exciting a pick, but he is 5.3 million, and I think that is very cheap for what he offers. His underlying attacking data isn't terrible. He's averaging an attacking return, expected at least, in 1 in every 4 game weeks. Plus, he's extremely good on DEFCON. So he's getting about a 50% ratio on DEFCON. So that's an extra point on average per game week. And at 5.3 million, if I can get an attacking return in every 4 weeks and a DEFCON every other week, I think that's pretty good. And it also helps me afford those future moves without having to worry or sweat on price changes. And then Minter, I can bring in for Ismaila Sarr in game week 15 rather than 13. So Elliot Anderson is not a sexy pick by any means. And I can already see the comments being like, just get Minter. He's much easier. And I do kind of agree that on the eye, Minter he's just so good. And I love him. I do want him in my team ASAP. But I wonder if the hopping on point is in 2 weeks rather than now. So let's move over to FPL team quickly. Let's try and do this live. I've actually achieved that, thankfully, and just show you what I mean. So if I look at game week 13, I actually have 1.6 million in the bank because I caught the price rise on Thiago, but I've locked in the Thiago move. Then if I moved out Enzo Fernandez, let's say it's for Minter right now. Nottingham Forest away, it's not a bad fixture, but it's also not amazing. It gives me 2.1 million, actually 2.2. If I move forward to game week 14, Thiago away at Arsenal, I would ideally not start him. So ideally bench him in a 4-5-1. It would probably have to be the way because I've only got a GU in my third forward spot. However, Rodon at home to Chelsea, Man City at home for Anderson are not great fixtures. So I probably need to sell one of them in order to bench Thiago, and I'm not selling Thiago. Ideally, I hold on to Anderson because he's got some great fixtures to come at Palace, Burnley, Forest, West Ham. I want to hold on to him. So I want to really sell Rodon. Now, if I make those moves, and I've got 6.2 million to spend next week if no prices change. So it does mean I can get to Daniel Munoz or Virgil van Dijk or Saliba are all within budget right now, but the money is quite tight. So if I wait till the last minute, Minter probably gets a price rise this week, and then I've maybe got 0.1 spare to get to Saliba or Virgil van Dijk, 0.2 on Munoz, but I do have a funny feeling he gets suspended given he's on 4 yellow cards already. So most people will laugh at me. I think Virgil van Dijk is still a decent option, although he has gone down in my estimations quite significantly in recent weeks, given that Liverpool don't look likely to keep a clean sheet. So maybe that's not a player I'm willing to buy in game week 14. If it's not, then it's probably Saliba. However boring it is, having double Arsenal defence does still seem like a pretty good play to me. And 6 million is not cheap. So that's a tight price for me to get to. I can currently do it. And then that would give me a 4-5-1 with double Arsenal defence. I really like that team. I think that's really strong. However, that money in the bank is a problem. So if I undo that and undo that, if I instead go for Anderson for the next 2 game weeks, actually, let's go back to game week 13 there, just to show for both weeks. Anderson has Brighton at home, followed by Wolves away. I think that's slightly better than what Brighton have, which is, of course, Nottingham Forest away, Aston Villa at home. And then it gives me 2.9, actually 3 million in the bank to either upgrade Rodon to whoever I want. Price isn't a problem then. Or I could even potentially upgrade Mark Giu to, I think it's up to 7.3 I'd have. Or 7.2, sorry. So I couldn't quite afford Voltemada, but I could get someone like a Danny Welbeck if I felt that he started that game week. So it leaves the options open. So I think right now, I'm currently thinking Anderson is the one that just saves me the grief. And I do like the next 2 fixtures, and I expect him to pick up DEFCON in both of those. So probably a 4-point floor. And then if he picks up an attacking return, then I'm laughing. Whereas Minter has a 2-point floor most weeks, and he would need to probably pick up a couple of attacking returns to make it worthwhile over Anderson, and it's tighter on money. So I'm not completely sold either way, basically. It could go either way, but I'm currently thinking Anderson might make sense as the better pickup this week, and then Minter would be in game week 15. So that's the end of this section. I might even just roll the transfer as well. Enzo is not a bad player to be holding on to, but I think at time of recording, Anderson is my preferred option. Right then, so on to the captaincy matrix for this game week. This section should be very, very short, and I do apologise for the rambly section last up. I took a little bit longer on that than usual, but hopefully it was worth it for the explanation on my plans. This section should be no longer than a minute because it's Erling Haaland. At home to Leeds, his old, well, I think he was born in Leeds. Not his old club, of course, but his dad's old club. And he's got unbelievable attacking data. Yes, he blanked against Newcastle, but even in that match, he put up very good numbers, got a couple of big chances. It's Erling Haaland. Salah as a differential, I don't hate, but given Liverpool's form at the moment, I think it's risky. Thiago, if you're really looking for someone very, very differential at home to Burnley, also a decent option. But it is Erling Haaland. He will be the player I pick for my captain this week and also in the captaincy matrix. Hopefully I can make it 10 out of 13 and hopefully he can get a big return for any triple captainers out there because again, I think it is a good week for that. And if you've got the triple captaincy chip, but not the free hit chip to play this week, I would have no hesitations in using it this game week. So once again, before time runs out on this offer, I wanted to remind you that FPL Focal and I have partnered to give you a full free month on his amazing FPL app. Now, it's no exaggeration to say I use this app more than probably any other football related app during a week, but also especially during a game week where it's got live DEFCON, live bonus points, up to the minute live rank as well. It is truly excellent, but also in the preparation for a game week, it's got all of the underlying data you could want, clean sheet odds, goal projections, basically the full package. It's all in this app. And if you wanted to take advantage of this offer today, you'd still get a full 3 month of usage of the premium version of the app. So everything I've mentioned and quite a lot more as well is all within this for free for a full 3 month. And then there's no obligation. If you subscribe today, 27th of November, then you get all the way up to 27th of December for free, and then you've got no obligation whatsoever to continue after that. So if it's not for you, then you can just cancel it and just use the free version from here on out. However, it is something that I would highly recommend. I only ever recommend the stuff that I genuinely use, and I use this thing constantly. So again, thank you to Oscar FPL Focal for giving me this offer, and hopefully you enjoy it as much as I have. Okay, so wrapping up with my team ahead of Game Week 13 with the transfers loaded in. Of course, I've already done the Thiago move, so home to Burnley, partnering Haaland up front. That should match what the free hit sides look like up front this week. Very confident in both of those. And that second free transfer for Enzo is the one that I haven't yet made. Like I mentioned earlier on in the video, I think I'm very slightly preferring Anderson, even though it might seem a bit boring. His underlying attacking data and the DEFCON, his routes to points, and I think I forgot to mention it earlier, but Morgan Gibbs-White is managing a bit of an injury right now. Obviously, we'll find out more before the deadline. But if he isn't playing, Anderson has taken a penalty recently when he wasn't on the pitch. Now, Igor Jesus also could be in line for penalties, so I wouldn't outright say that Anderson is going to take the next penalty if Morgan Gibbs-White is out, but he's at least in the running. So that's another little bonus, perhaps, for him, because he will stay on the pitch for 90 minutes. So if the other players have been taken off, he might get the penalties. So again, another reason I quite like him, but he's got 2 good fixtures to come, and then I can get to Yankuba Minter in game week 15 perhaps, and it does mean that my move in game week 14 is much easier and I don't have to worry about the price changes all too much. However, I am willing to admit it is a little bit boring, and Minter is much more exciting, and if I was to go completely on gut call, Minter would probably be the one that I go for. However, just applying a bit of a logic to it, I think I'm getting more and more convinced that Anderson is the correct way of playing it for me, only for my team. It might be different for everyone else out there, but considering the price changes and the budget I've got, and knowing what I want to do in game week 14, Anderson might make the most sense. So anyway, I've talked through the rest of my 11. Anderson might be the one that I'm 50-50 on, but I'm pretty happy with my team. It's not as good as the free hit drafts that I've seen, and I'm missing out on Liverpool, missing out on Brentford mainly outside of Thiago, Aston Villa as well, and City. So I'm not expecting a green arrow, but I think my players hold up pretty well to scrutiny this game week. None of them have amazing fixtures, but they're all right. And I've got the captain that everyone's got. I've got Thiago up front. I will survive this week. And if I've got a small red going, as long as I'm top 500k going into game week 14, I would call that a mini success. And I wouldn't be too upset about that. If I can get a green arrow, then hey, that's a bonus. Either way, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd massively appreciate if you could leave a like on the video, but importantly, hit subscribe, and you could be the one that helps me achieve my goal of 5k before Christmas. Thank you all so much for watching.